Game Week 8, key topics and key discussions. We're going to be talking about everything you need to know about Game Week 8, all the questions that everybody is asking. We've got loads to get through in this video. We're going to be talking about the Liverpool assets, whether you should be sticking with them or getting rid of them. We're going to be talking about the Spurs assets, who have a great run of fixtures coming up. We're also going to be talking about the cheap defenders, which are the ones that are looking the most appealing right now, as well as that we're going to be looking at the cheap forwards as well. So a lot to discuss in this video. If you're an FPL fan, do drop a like on this video. It takes 1 second, and do subscribe as well. It would mean a lot. Right then, so we want to start off by talking about the Liverpool assets. Now, a lot of people are thinking, do we get rid or do we keep hold of them? Now, the fixtures coming up for Liverpool do get a lot tougher. They've had a favourable run for the opening 7 game weeks, and headed into Game Week 8, they have got a more difficult run now coming up, with Chelsea up next, then Arsenal away, then Brighton, Aston Villa, Southampton, Man City, and Newcastle. A few nice fixtures in there, but quite a few difficult ones as well. So the question is, do we stick with the assets that we have got at the moment? Now, a lot of people, will start off with Mo Salah. A lot of people are getting rid of Mo Salah, which, to me, I mean, I kind of understand it as part of a 2-transfer move. If you want to get rid of Salah, downgrade him to maybe a Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, and then upgrade one of your other players. For me, that's absolutely fair enough. But we did do a video more talking in depth about the premium midfielders yesterday, if you want to go and check that out. But just going over it, I still think that Salah is the best out of the three premiums with Saka, Palmer, and Salah. I think Salah will get the most points in the next, say, 4 weeks. So if I had Salah and I was a Salah owner, if I wasn't moving him out in a 2-transfer move to upgrade elsewhere, honestly, Mo Salah for me, I'd just be sticking with, to be honest. I think he's still been very, very good this season. Obviously, he's disappointed in the last few weeks, but so has other players disappointed at other stages of the season. When you look at Bukayo Saka disappointing against Leicester, and then you also look at Cole Palmer's had games where he hasn't done great, as well as that Haaland's blanked in the last 2 games. You know, you're going to have a spell or games where your top premiums don't perform, and that's been the case with Mo Salah, but that doesn't mean that he's a bad option going forward and he isn't going to get any returns. Because in my opinion, even though these fixtures are a little bit tougher, he can still absolutely get returns. Now we'll go on to Luis Diaz. Now, Luis Diaz is someone who's getting transferred out a lot as well, and this one's a bit more justifiable with him obviously being benched in the last game. But if you ask me now, will he start against Chelsea at home? I think Luis Diaz will be straight back in the starting 11. He scored yesterday for Colombia. He played 70 minutes and got subbed off early, and I think he'll be absolutely fine for the game on Sunday against Chelsea. I think he'll be starting. I think Liverpool put out their strongest starting 11, and there's no argument that Luis Diaz is in that starting 11 no matter what. Isn't that best starting 11 no matter what for Liverpool as of right now. He's been Liverpool's star performer for me so far this season. He had a bad game last time against Wolves, but that's not to say that he can't get returns going forward. And if Luis Diaz is starting at playing 60-70 minutes, what do you expect? You know, if he's starting, you're expecting to play 60-70, and that's what you brought him in knowing that that's going to be the case with the occasional benching. For me, if he's going to start the game, which I think he will do, for me, he's a hold. I mean, you could potentially transfer him out to maybe go up to a Cole Palmer or Bukayo Saka, which is absolutely valid, which is a good transfer. Or you could potentially move him down to Brennan Johnson, who we'll talk about in greater detail later on in this video. But if I was a Luis Diaz owner, which I am, I'm personally sticking with him and just banking the transfer. But that's what I'm going to do in my opinion. And I still think, as I say, him starting and playing 60-70 minutes against Chelsea, to me, doesn't sound too bad, to be honest. It's that Arsenal fixture, which is a little bit more worrying next week. But that's for me where we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So for me, Luis Diaz as a whole, he's not a desperate sell, because I do think he'll start the game. Now talking about Trent Arnold, he's another player he's done very, very well so far this season, to be fair. He's been unlucky not to get as many attacking returns. He's only picked up 1 assist. Unlucky not to get more, not to get anything more, because his numbers do suggest that he at least deserves something else. But he scored that amazing free kick as well for England. And up next, Chelsea at home. It's not a good fixture. There's no line about that. But it's not an absolutely terrible fixture. Like, Arsenal away is a lot worse fixture than Chelsea at home, in my opinion. Liverpool have been the best defence as well so far in the league. I know they have had favourable fixtures, but there's no denying that Liverpool have been very, very good defensively so far this season. Now, obviously, we would like Trent to have got a couple more attacking returns, yes, but he's still done pretty well overall. And for me, I'm going to hold Trent personally. I'm a Trent owner. I'm going to hold Trent for 1 more week. But as I say, if you want to go to like a Cole Palmer, if you really want to, or move to a different player, like upgrade your midfield, downgrading Trent to 4.5 million definitely, or downgrading Trent to Konate or someone, definitely isn't a bad way to go. But you got to think you're using a lot of transfers, and the players that you're moving to, the other premiums, it could be, I mean, fair enough, you move into a Son or Foden, but if you move into a Saka or Palmer, they've both got difficult fixtures coming up. You've got to take that into consideration, which I'm not saying they can't return, they absolutely can, but you know, you'd be more likely to bring them in, or you'd want to bring them in more if they had easier fixtures. Just them fixtures and wasting them transfers, to me, doesn't sound too appealing, but obviously each to their own. But for me, Trent Alexander will be staying in my team for at least one more week, and then I'm going to reassess at that Arsenal game for me. Now moving on to the Spurs assets. Is it time to be buying the Spurs assets? With some nice fixtures coming up. You look at the next four: West Ham at home, Crystal Palace away. Villa at home is good for an attack, to be fair. Villa have only kept one clean sheet in the Premier League, so it's not a terrible fixture. Then Ipswich at home after that, but then it is tough again with Man City, but then Fulham and Bournemouth after that. Overall, if you look at that, that's 6 out of 7 good fixtures for Spurs coming up, which you at least want one Spurs player, in my opinion. Now, we've got on the screen Solanke, Brennan Johnson and Maddison. You can also maybe put Kulusevski into the mix at 6.2 million. And there's also maybe a Van der Ven at 4.6 million, I believe he is now. And then there's also Pedro Porro as well that you could maybe put into this mix. But the top 3 for me are Solanke, Brennan Johnson and Maddison. Now, if you're looking at it, Solanke and Maddison are the same price. Solanke, he's struggled against Brighton in terms of actually getting goal-scoring opportunities for himself. But in the 2 games prior to that, his XG was really, really high. I don't think any player had a higher XG in the last 2 games before that than Dominic Solanke. So, but the worrying thing for me with Solanke is that he does drop a little bit deeper. It's kind of like the role that Harry Kane played for Spurs, but it's Dominic Solanke. Obviously, Solanke can't play it to the extent that Kane did, but I'm saying it in terms of the striker drops in deep and the wingers are very pushed on. You saw against Brighton, Timo Werner and Brennan Johnson. Timo Werner looked dangerous, but it's Timo Werner. He just doesn't have an end product. But Brennan Johnson does have a bit more of an end product, and you've seen in the recent games that Brennan Johnson's scoring form has been absolutely incredible. And to be honest, I can see his scoring form continuing. So speaking on Brennan Johnson, for me, he's the #1 Spurs asset. In terms of value and in terms of like actual goal scoring ability, Brennan Johnson definitely looks the strongest. Now, Dominic Solanke is still a very good option, but he's someone that I need to keep more of an eye on. I think he is still a good transfer in, but I prefer Brennan Johnson for the 6.5 million for the million cheaper. But as I say, Solanke, that's not to say he's a bad option at all. I still think he's a very good option, but maybe not the #1 option for Spurs. But with the fixtures coming up, all of these Spurs assets are very, very good in my opinion. Then going on to Maddison. Now, he's a great pick, and there's also someone we can discuss as well in there. I think they're all great picks, but it's hard when you've got all these midfielders in Maddison, Son, and then you've got Kulusevski. They're obviously all great picks, and they've got great fixtures coming up. I do think they're good picks in isolation. But then when you compare it to Brennan Johnson, I do just think he's clear in terms of value and in terms of attacking output, as I said before. So for me, if I'm choosing a Spurs asset to bring in, it would be Brennan Johnson. If I was to say make a transfer this week, which I don't think I'm in my personal team, it would be maybe a Luis Diaz out down to a Brennan Johnson, because I do think he is the #1 transfer in as far as midfielders go in the whole of FPL, in my opinion, this week. Now moving on to the budget defenders. I'm going to be going more in depth on the attacking defenders. Now, is it time to buy them? Because, you know, we've seen clean sheets have been hard to come by for the kind of the price point of 4.5 million. There's not really anybody standout that's kept a lot of clean sheets. United have kept clean sheets, but they've also conceded a lot of goals in between that as well. But there's no defence that's really absolutely, like, you know, blown me away, except for maybe a Nottingham Forest, who've kept a few clean sheets. But other than that, the clean sheets have been very hard to come by for defenders. So is it time to go for attacking defenders? Now, I want to start off by talking about James Justin. Now, he's got some good fixtures coming up, and a lot of people are bringing James Justin in. He's actually gone up to 4.6 million, which sounds crazy considering, you know, Leicester are a newly promoted side. And to get a player that's gone up at 4.5 million to 4.6 is crazy. Obviously, James Justin has had 3 returns in the last 2 games. But the chances in that continuing, for me, aren't too high, to be honest. I mean, he is a good player and he has got that attacking potential slightly. But the other 2 players we're going to talk about in a minute have got the data and the XG and like the actual statistics behind them to justify bringing him in as an attacking defender. James Justin, though, has got some nice fixtures coming up, looking at Southampton away, Nottingham Forest at home, and Ipswich away. It's a really nice next 3 fixtures, to be fair, from a defensive perspective. But do I trust that Leicester defence? Absolutely not. And will James Justin's attacking returns continue? They very well could do, but I personally don't think they will. So I'll be steering well clear of James Justin, in my opinion. Then you look at it after that, United away and Chelsea at home aren't the most ideal fixtures. So for me, I would stay away from James Justin personally. Then talking about the 2 players I really want to talk about, it is nouri. Now, his fixtures don't get good really until game week 10, where Wolves have a really nice run. The next 2 fixtures are pretty tough, so maybe one to hold off on yet. But as a transfer in game week 9, I think Nouri is a great move personally. I think he's got some really nice fixtures coming up before, as I said before, and two goals, 2 assists in his opening 7 matches is very, very impressive, and he's got good data to back that up as well. So Nouri is definitely one that is one to keep an eye on and see how Wolves perform. Obviously, their defence has been terrible so far this season. Wolves have conceded so many goals, but as I say, you've got to hope the fixtures obviously do get better. You've got to hope that Wolves' defence will get better with the fixtures, and you're kind of hoping you're bringing in Nouri for the potential of attacking returns, not for the potential of a clean sheet, but you can still hope in the fixtures, for example, where you've got Palace at home and Southampton at home. In those 2 games, you can hope for at least a clean sheet, and then you'll be pretty happy. Like, you're hoping for a couple of attacking returns with maybe 1 clean sheet in there, an odd clean sheet bonus, and you're looking at a great value pick at 4.4 million for Nouri. Looks like an absolute steal, to be honest. Now, we'll move on to Leif Davis of Ipswich. Now, in terms of chances created in the last 2 game weeks, there's no defender that's actually created more chances than Leif Davis. Now, Ipswich, again, it's the same as Wolves. You can't really trust that defence at all. Again, you can maybe hope for 1 clean sheet in the next 5 games, potentially, if you're lucky. Maybe 2, but probably 1 clean sheet if you're lucky. But yeah, again, you're bringing in Leif Davis for that attacking potential. The guy got like 20 assists last season in the Championship. He's already picked up an assist so far in the Premier League as well. And as I say, he's very, very good going forward. And Ipswich haven't been terrible going forward as well so far this season. They have scored a few, looking at Liam Delap, who's put a few in the back of the net. But the next 3 fixtures for Ipswich are pretty nice. And beyond game week 12 as well, Ipswich fixtures do continue to be quite nice. So the next 5 or the next 3 that you're looking at in particular, you have Everton at home, Brentford away, and then Leicester at home. After that, Spurs and United isn't ideal. But then, as I say, after game week 12, it is a good run of fixtures for Leif Davis. So Leif Davis and Nouri for me are the 2 standouts in terms of attacking fullbacks and attacking budget defenders. Obviously, there's Rico Lewis as well if you don't have him already, but Rico Lewis is another good one. But is his minutes nailed? We do not know. But for me, Nouri and Leif Davis are definitely ones that I'm keeping an eye on. Especially for me, Nouri could potentially be a transfer in for my personal team in game week 9. Now I want to move on to the budget forwards. Now we've got 2 forwards I want to talk about in detail. There obviously is quite a lot of good options, which I'll mention the other options later on in the video. But talking about Chris Wood, Nottingham Forest have got a really nice next 4 games. If you're looking at it from an attacking perspective, like they've got Crystal Palace who have conceded goals, Leicester away who have also conceded goals, West Ham conceded goals, and Newcastle have conceded goals. So it's a nice next 4 fixtures, and Nottingham Forest have looked really good so far this season. And Chris Wood with 4 goals already this season, he always seems to chip in with goals. So for me, he's the number 1 option around that 6 million kind of price point for a forward. You've also got Cunha as well, who's got good fixtures coming up in about game week 10, as I said before, with the Wolves fixtures. He could be the number 1 pick from maybe like a game week 12 onwards, because Wolves have some nice fixtures. It could be a case of going from Chris Wood to Cunha when Chris Wood does play Arsenal away. So that's kind of something that's in my thinking personally. But we'll go on to the next forward now, who I think is a good option as well. Now, another forward that I really like the look of is Raul Jimenez. Now, the issue is with Jimenez, you always worry if a couple of bad games, he plays badly in a few games, he gets subbed off early, and then Muniz comes on and scores. That is the main problem with Jimenez. But his numbers are by far and away clear than every other striker around his kind of price point. And to go with that, the fixtures are really nice as well. Villa at home is not a bad fixture there for Fulham, in my opinion. Then after that, Everton away, Brentford at home, Crystal Palace away, and Wolves at home. It's a really nice run of fixtures for Raul Jimenez. And at 5.6 million, he could potentially provide amazing value. And I'd say 3 goals, 1 assist. He also scored an amazing free kick yesterday for Mexico against the USA. And Jimenez looks to be back to his Wolves self, which is amazing to see after his horrible injury that he had. So it's good to see Jimenez doing well again. And he could definitely be a good FPL option going into game week 8. And with them next 5 fixtures, I say it is very nice. So let me know what you think of all that in the comment section down below. Drop a like if you've enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. It takes 1 second, and if you've watched this point, you may as well subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.